Hi, you all. This is E-Man Booze. Good to be reviewing spirits again. Today we're going to review a blended malt Scotch whiskey called Campbelltown Loch. It is a blended malt Scotch whiskey. A little bit different from blended Scotch whiskeys like you see here on the label of this Dewar's Mini that I picked up for this demonstration here. So what's the difference? Well, blended Scotch whiskeys typically are bottled at lower strengths. 40 ABV, 80 proof, 43 ABV maybe, 86 proof. And they're a blend of single malt whiskey and something known as grain whiskey. Now, what's grain whiskey? Well, grain whiskey is, it probably has some malted barley in it, but it also probably has some other grains. Could be corn, could be rye, could be wheat. But when you do that, you get a different kind of distillate that comes out of the still, and hence it makes a different kind of whiskey. Now, if you take a bunch of single malt whiskey, which remember now, single malt whiskey is all malted barley, 100% malted barley made at a single distillery, such as this Springbank. You look on the label here, see how it says single malt at the bottom there? That's a single malt whiskey. 100% malted barley made at one distillery, in this case, Springbank. Now, these spirits here, blended Scotch whiskeys, kind of like the Johnny Walkers, the Dewar's, and some of the other brands you may know, what they do is they get lots of whiskey from lots of different distilleries. They may be using 20, 30, 40, 50, 15, we don't really know. But they're taking single malt whiskey, they're also taking pot still whiskey, and they're blending them all together. They do that for uniformity, and they're trying to soften the spirit a little bit. Whereas when you're drinking single malt whiskeys most of the time, you're getting a more maltier blast from the malted barley. And that's what I like about single malts. They're much rarer, by the way, too. Only about 10, maybe 15% of Scottish whiskey production revolves around single malts, whereas a majority of the whiskey that they make and send all around the world and consume also locally is just regular blended Scotch whiskey. We want to get into things that are a little more interesting. And that's where this Campbelltown Loch comes in. Now, when it says blended malt Scotch whiskey, it doesn't have any of that grain whiskey in it. It's only a blend of two or more single malt Scotches. Now, in the case of Campbelltown Loch, there are 5 single malt whiskeys that go into this blend. 3 come from Springbank. 1 comes from Kilkerran, and 1 comes from Glen Scotia. There's only 3 distilleries in Campbelltown, and that's in the south and the west. It's east of Isla, west of Glasgow, a little south of the Highlands. Now, these 3 distilleries send all of their malts, their single malts, to Springbank. Springbank gathers them, vats them, and puts them in this here bottle. What I love about everything that Springbank does is when they put spirit in a bottle, they never chill filter it, and they never put artificial coloring in it, which is allowed by Scottish regulations. Now, those things are important because when you chill filter a whiskey, you're generally lowering the temperature in order to get some particles that may be floating around or even invisible to coagulate and come together and get filtered out. So that when you add something into your whiskey, it won't cloud up, like especially if you put ice in there. It's purely cosmetic, but it takes flavor away from the whiskey. Kind of like if you cut off too much fat off of a really nice steak. You cut that fat off that steak, you ain't getting all the flavor. So we're looking for spirits that are not chill filtered. And we also don't want artificial colorant. In the EU, they allow for the use of E150A, which is caramel color. And it's a funky color. I'm telling you, sometimes it looks orange in the bottle. I don't know, but I don't like it. And it tastes funky, and I don't want to see it in my whiskey. All right, Let's see what we getting in the glass here. Let's nose it up and let's taste it. It's been sitting for about 20 minutes now. Wow, that's pretty, it's pretty heady right there. Okay, bunch of brown sugar. Noticing some red fruits. They use of the 5 spirits that go into here, of the 5 single malts, some of them are aged in bourbon casks and some are aged in sherry casks. So you're getting a little bit of bourbon notes on the nose. The vanilla, the toffee, some of that caramel note, definitely brown sugar, a little bit of smoke from the charred wood, a little bit of peatiness, not the same as smokiness. Peatiness comes from peat. And in Scotland, the peat that they use here, I'm not sure whether it's coming from the Highlands or it's coming from Islay, or it may even be coming from Campbelltown. But there's a little bit of peatiness, that medicinal tone that you get in there. There is also a little bit of something like a brininess, a little bit of saltiness, probably from the maritime closeness and that maritime influence on the aging of the casks. A little bit of raisins in here. Fruit can pick up some, aside from the berry fruit, picking up something reminds me a little bit of like apricot, apple type of thing. There's a little bit of spice note. Reminds me of something like ever so slight cinnamon. And there's a solventy tone here. Almost like, and not in a bad way, but almost like I want to say like slightly acetone, but not. It's very heady and intense. Just throw it up on the palate, see how she's tasting. You get some of that peat. You get it more on the back end. Definitely sweetness, brown sugar, a little bit of tanginess, a little bit of gingery type notes. The sherry cask influence, those neat things that you get from sherries, like a little bit of date, fig, almond type of notes, little bit of spiciness from the bourbon barrel, maybe a hint of cinnamon. Let me see if I'm picking up any type of vegetal note or something like a herbal note. No, I'm really not. I'm not getting too much of that in the nose. On the back end, you get this. There's that peat and smokiness again. You get this biscuity type of note, like a great shortbread cookie, a biscuit type of thing. Believe it or not, at 46 ABV, a lot of times to me, Scotches come across bold. They almost come across as super flavorful. And I really think that a little bit of water tones them down. Sometime to me, 46 ABV is like bourbon at 105. I'm telling you. But let's just throw just a couple of drops in here. I threw 3 little drops in here. If we swirl it around here, we might be able to see some little misty things going on here. The Scottish mist, they call it. That's when you don't chill filter. That's what happens when you add water to the spirit. This does change the nose a little bit. It amplifies it. It's bringing the aromas out. There you go. Bringing a little bit of a licorice tone in the back on the finish. And a slight hint, maybe something like a saginess. But I love the sweetness and the sourness and the ginger, that ginger note, a little bit of that apple apricot thing going on. All of the bourbon cask influence, the beautiful things that sherry casks do. I've never had a blended malt Scotch whiskey as good as this one. I must say. Now, this bottle right here it's about $70 in the States, so it's pretty pricey for a blended malt Scotch. Another good one to go to, and the only blended malt Scotch whiskey in Johnny Walker's line, is their green label. That's a blend of 4 single malts. That's pretty nice. That's up around $80 these days, though. So you're getting a quality product here from perhaps one of the greatest Scotch producers. These guys are cult heroes right here. So many people are looking for these bottles and they can't find them a lot of times, but Springbank does it right. This here should be on your radar. If you can find a bottle of Campbelltown Loch, go ahead and get it. You can find these guys on the internet at, what is it? What's their Springbank.Scot, SCOT. I'm E-Man Booze. Thanks for watching. Bye, you all.